I'm totally illiterate. Philosophy is easy. Anyone could do it.
Totally illiterate.
Hello, zoo citizens. Today I wanted to spend a little time talking about iterability and specifically what it is and how Derrida unfolds it to win every argument he takes part in. So whenever you're trying to follow deconstructive argumentation, it's worth asking yourself, what is the status of iterability? What is the status of the possibility of reiteration, of repetition outside context in this argument? Because it's somewhere and it's probably decisive. I'm going to talk about iterability in the context of context. So iterability of what? Of marks. What does iterability of a mark mean? It means that that mark is repeatable outside of its context of inscription and its ideal or intended context of legibility or reinscription. So we'll get to some examples to make this clear, but every mark, every inscription has a sort of escape velocity, in the words of Jeffrey Bennington, from context. So a few quick examples that shows that marks consistently function independent of their context. So Homer, ancient Greece, we don't really know anything about the context of Homer's life. We don't really know anything about his family, what Greek city he was in, or anything about his social context as he was writing the Iliad, the Odyssey. But it seems like we can read them okay. Another similar example. After the Soviet Revolution, the Russian Revolution in the 20th century, the Russian language didn't really change the extent to which you would expect if you were, say, a fairly unsophisticated Marxist thinker of linguistics, and you thought social context or class context determined the communicability and structure of a language, sort of what words it used, who could read it, etc., etc. Writing and marks have a certain independent or autonomous relation to quasi-autonomous relation to context. So another example, performatives, or words that do something. The most famous example here is the I do of a marriage ceremony, which, assuming certain conditions are met, people that mean it, people that are in a church, when there's a priest there, etc., given those conditions, the saying I do marries two individuals. But this mark, I do, can also function, can also communicate, can also do something in contexts that don't fulfill these conditions. So what are called in Austin's language, J.L. Austin wrote this How to Do Things with Words book, that's where all the performative stuff's from, that can function in infelicitous contexts, or contexts that are parasitic or secondary in the Austinian language. So if a mark couldn't function outside the context of its inscription, and thus in a manner alien to how the author or speaker or YouTuber imagined it would not even be a mark. So communication, writing, speaking, performativing, marrying, christening a ship-ing, any of these events, any of these inscriptions necessarily has the possibility of going bad, not meaning what was intended, functioning in an unforeseeable, unmasterable context, when the author is dead, when the philosopher who intended his text to be read in a certain way is no longer present. So, and thus betraying and or perverting the conditions of its inscription. So what's Derrida's killer argument going to be? Well, pretty much everybody, I think everybody is going to admit whatever marks they're talking about, whether it's performatives in Austin's case, or or letters in the context of the debate with Lacan, everyone's going to just admit every mark has the possibility of going bad, going wrong, not marking what it is meant to or was going to mark. But what Derrida is going to do is going to say that necessary possibility, that essential possibility of any mark, since it is an essential possibility, is not just a possibility held in abeyance, a possibility that may befall a mark, but is a possibility that even in the ideal case, even when communication works, and it does, communication works. Don't believe anybody who tells you deconstruction says communication just doesn't work. But even in the case of the ideal case of communication working, of a performative working, people really getting married, ships really getting christened, etc., there is still the haunting possibility of this perversion of context. One can never foreclose the possibility of this perversion. For Derrida, that means in order to explain the essential character of this possibility, one must posit it haunting every example. Every example.
Pretty stupid, Davis. Pretty goddamn stupid.